My name is Derek Prince, and you're listening to Soundtracked, a video game music podcast. And this is Hateno Village from The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. While the soundtrack for Breath of the Wild was sparse compared to other games in the Zelda franchise, composers Manaka, Kataoka, and Yasuaki Iwata made sure that what was on display was equal parts meaningful and beautiful. Hateno Village is my personal favorite track from the game and evokes a sort of pastoral peacefulness. Often overlooked for its home console older siblings, the Donkey Kong Land series on Nintendo's Game Boy did an admirable job of translating the Donkey Kong Country experience to handheld. While the visuals and gameplay suffered a bit because of the downgrade from 16 to 8-bit, the composer, Graeme Norgate, was able to create a soundtrack that not only captured the spirit of David Wise's original, but was able to deliver on its own. This is Kremlantis from Donkey Kong Land for the Nintendo Game Boy. The recent release of the oft-neglected black sheep of Square's PS1 Final Fantasy lineup, Final Fantasy VIII, brings along with it a fantastic and diverse soundtrack from legendary composer and series mainstay Nobuo Uematsu. Final Fantasy VIII soundtrack was eclectic and genre-spanning, but the gentle Balamb Garden always stood out to me most. This is Balamb Garden from Final Fantasy VIII. This next track is brought to us by yet another legendary Japanese composer. Called arguably the greatest game music composer of the 16-bit age by Nintendo Power, Yuzo Koshiro, best known for his work on Sega franchises such as Streets of Rage and Shenmue, led work on the Etrian Odyssey series of first-person dungeon crawlers. Juxtaposed with the unforgiving difficulty the series is known for, this track breezes effortlessly along. This is Labyrinth 1 Cerulean Woodlands from Etrian Odyssey 4 for the Nintendo 3DS. Rounding out this episode's offerings is a track from the gorgeous puzzle platformer Fez. The soundtrack to Fez was composed by Richard Vreeland, who is better known by his stage name Disasterpeace. Vreeland would go on to compose for films such as horror darling It Follows, as well as other games including Hyperlight Drifter. Vreeland's history of using chiptunes shines through in this track, but instead of relying on them too heavily, he utilizes pads and reverb to evoke a more fully realized synthesizer sound. This is Adventure from Fez. I'm Derek Prince. Thanks so much for listening.